Now to the battle against what police describe as a Northeast Ohio crime wave committed by juveniles.
The problem is not exclusive to our area, but it has gotten controversial over the past year, with agencies publicly pointing the finger at what they perceive as the main problem. In part one of our series, Peter Fleischer reveals the troubling trends and why there is disagreement about how to handle the suspects involved.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Waverly Willis owns multiple barbershops now. A childhood passion he turned into a career.
Kids do what they see.
Willis remembers those days as a kid vividly. He describes his youth as happy, but not perfect.
It was some drinking, it was some drugs in my family, it was definitely domestic violence. But again, to me, that was normal because the same thing was happening to the kid down the street.
He can also remember when things started to take a turn.
I started finding trouble earlier on, 11, 12, 13 years old. I led a double life. You know, my mom had no idea that my friends and I, because of sports, she thought we was at football practice and we was out on the block selling drugs.
Selling drugs before his teenage years sent Willis on a slippery slope. It's a story he sees in many neighborhoods today, as juvenile crime creates chaos for families.
I wasn't a bad kid. I made dumb decisions because that's what kids do. They make dumb decisions.
3 News Investigates went through 15 years of county crime data using the most recent numbers available. Aggravated murder charges for juveniles increased 354% from 2010 to 2022. And charges for carrying a concealed weapon more than tripled for juveniles during that same time. Children are committing more violent crimes with increasingly fatal outcomes. But how the system responds has become controversial.
It really is a complex system that requires complex solutions.
Law enforcement makes the arrest. The prosecutor's office brings the case, and a judge decides where the offender goes next. But justice is not one size fits all.
Based on the level of offense, the severity of offense, the child's history of reoffending, we can make mistakes by putting low-risk young people in with high-risk kids. That will result in more recidivism and less community safety.
3 News Investigates reviewed data appearing to show the system's hesitance to lock up young criminals. Admissions at youth services detention centers are down 65% over 14 years in Cuyahoga County. The department director says there's a reason why low and moderate risk juvenile cases undergo rehabilitation at home, not behind bars.
Their connection to home, their connection to family, their connection to resources, their connection to mentors and churches, all of that matters in terms of outcomes.
But releasing juveniles for in-home programs doesn't always sit well with arresting officers. Cleveland police declined our interview request for this story, but has voiced frustration in the past.
You know, the police is arresting them. You know, what do we do now? What else can we do to provide the resources that these juveniles need, whether it's counseling, whether it's stiffer consequences, whether it's, more punishment.
Gibbons pushes back on the idea that court systems are putting the community in danger by releasing anyone not fitting that high-risk label.
Locking them up actually exacerbates their likelihood to reoffend. They come out worse. So that's why we reserve secure detention for only those need to be detained, because they're jeopardizing community safety.
Back in his barbershop, Willis reflects on his past life. Today, he regularly visits juvenile detention centers to provide haircuts and advice. He's seen firsthand what happens inside.
It breaks you down mentally, emotionally. You feel abandoned.
But when it comes to juvenile justice, what can't be debated is how neighborhoods suffer when teenagers cause trouble across their communities.
Peter Fleischer reporting. Our series on juvenile justice continues tomorrow on 3 News at 5. Then we will break down the funding behind the system, why it's controversial, and how supporters defend which youth offenders end up behind bars.